Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here from the Kayak Fishing Show. Last week on the Kayak Fishing Show live on Facebook, we had Mikele from ACR with us, and we talked about these personal locator beacons. So I'm going to share that show with you now. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here, and welcome to the Kayak Fishing Show live. As always, brought to you by Ballast Point Brewing Company. Today we're having just the standard old regular Sculpin IPA. Definitely one of my favorites for a very long time. Best beers around. I don't know if you guys saw, I got my son out on the water this past week. And we got onto the most crazy, wide open, Dorado-filled kelp patty you've ever seen. I got some really cool underwater footage of it, hooked up the Go Fish cam and tossed it out and hooked up onto a couple Dorado, and super cool footage. So I'll be posting that within the next day or so. I'm actually leaving on vacation tomorrow, so if I don't get it up, it'll be a week or so, but I will be sharing that with you really soon. But the fishing definitely here off San Diego is really heating up. So remember, if you are watching the show, make sure you're watching it on the Kayak Fishing Show page and shoot us some questions. If you want to be eligible to win any prizes or anything like that, you need to be involved on the Kayak Fishing Show page. If you're watching it as a replay, please type in replay so we know that you've seen it also. We'll wait about 24 hours so everybody gets a chance to win. But to do that, you do need to like, comment, share. That's what's going to get us the most reach, and that's going to keep our sponsors happy if more people are seeing this. So please view on this page. I'm really stoked. I've been wanting to work with this company for a long time, and I you know me, I'm all about safety when I'm out on the water. You know how adamant I am about PFDs and having the right safety equipment. And the guest we have today is working with ACR-Artex personal locator beacons. This is what we're going to be talking about today. The importance of having these things, how they work, why you should have one. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring up into the broadcast Mikele from ACR, and there he is. How are you, Mikele?
I'm good. How you doing, Jim?
I'm good, man. I'm so glad we could get you on here. I know you're super busy. I mean, every time I try to get a hold of you, you're running a million different directions. And I guess that's a good thing. Business must be good.
Business is good. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday. I want to crack open one of those beers I just saw you drinking.
Well, I highly encourage drinking on the job. For anybody who's looking, there is the website. More importantly, right before we started to come on this broadcast, we got a fantastic offer that I want to share with you guys. They've offered up a 15% discount on anything across the board on their website if you use the code that I've got on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting this product, any of the products that they have on there, and there's a lot of stuff besides just the personal locator beacons, ditch bags, and all kinds of very cool stuff. So I just want to show that. I'm going to take that down. I'll pop that back up from time to time. I'm going to say hello to a few of our guests here, or our viewers. Weiss, how are you, man? Always good to have you on here. Gabriel, you need one of those. Everybody, you know what? If you're going out, if you're an offshore guy, if you're going out into the wilderness, if you're going to remote locations, if you're spending time offshore, everybody should have one of these things. Justin, how you doing? Serge from Ottawa, how's it going? Tanya, Justin, Charlie. Man, we got a lot of people on here already. Oh, my good friend Ulf Johansson from Sweden. We get viewers from all over the world on here. It's pretty cool. I'm always like to see that. So Mikele, let's talk about personal locator beacons. Let's talk about the company and about this product. And maybe some of the differences in why your product versus other products. I've been looking at these for a long time, and I mean the size of this now. I mean it kind of reminds me of the size of an old flip phone.
Yeah.
But if you can see, I'll actually bring this photo up, and let's go solo on here. You can see where I've got this actually on the shoulder of my PFD. So it's nice and high, and it doesn't interfere with anything. So there's no reason not to carry it on your person.
Yeah, and that's the key right there is, you know, especially for your market with the kayaking market, is making sure that you're actually wearing it. You know, in the boating market, we have a lot of people who keep it in their boat, in their center console or whatnot, and they're not actually wearing the product. So if they were to fall overboard, you know, life's tough. You know, and I can tell you, we've had about 8 different kayak survivors, and all of them were luckily wearing the product because most of them got separated from their kayak. And so, you know, people always ask us, what's the right beacon to have? And it's kind of cliche to say, but it's, you know, the beacon you have with you when you need it. And that's that's the beauty behind a personal locator beacon. You know, they're small enough that you can wear them just about in any application. And the one you're showing is our, you know, this is our smallest buoyant version. So if you do drop it in the water, it's going to float for you. You don't need a flotation pouch, but it's not even our smallest one. We have our Ocean Signal PLB1, which is the smallest non-floating version in the world. So it's, I mean, they're getting real small. There's no reason really now not to have and wear one of these, but wearing it's half the battle.
Right. And I have your website up above us here. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I'm not going to leave it up here the whole time or anything, but I just want people to show that the website's very thorough, has a lot of great information. The other thing is there's a lot of stories, which was pretty interesting. A lot of the stories of people who have used and been saved because of this device.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key is you know, proving to people that this kind of device will get you help. And that's the thing is, you know, just when you go in the water, you're tiny compared to that giant ocean.
Yeah.
And having that device where people will easier be able to find you. Mm-hmm. So can you basically describe how a personal locator beacon works?
Yeah. So with one of these personal locator beacons, first thing is when you buy one. Most important part of owning a beacon or having a beacon is the second you buy it, you want to register it with NOAA. So in the United States, you register it with NOAA, and they essentially keep the database of who the beacon belongs to. And with that registration, you put 2 emergency contacts along with your own personal information. There's an additional box there for additional information. So if you have any health, issues, put that in the box because, you know, as it's not always getting separated from a kayak, a slip and fall, a boat sinking. A lot of times it can be a medical issue. And so with that registration, what you're doing is that's your active part in a rescue. Hopefully NOAA never even opens that your file. But should you ever activate the beacon, you've now provided them with all the information that they're going to need to go and facilitate that rescue. So with the PLB, let's say you're in distress, you need help. You simply deploy the antenna, keep the antenna pointing to the sky. You want to make sure you have a nice clear view of the sky. The beacon is equipped with GPS. So we always tell people, you know, when you're holding the beacon, don't cover the GPS. You know, you don't want to block that.
Okay.
Hopefully you're wearing it on a life jacket, like in your picture. You're keeping it mounted high in your life jacket. But the way these beacons work is they have a 406 megahertz distress signal, which goes to a satellite system overhead called COSPAS-SARSAT. And that's a government-run search and rescue satellite system, and it has worldwide coverage. So, even though you might register this beacon in the United States, if you travel anywhere in the world, including the North and South Pole, and you activate the beacon, the satellite system is going to hear it and it's going to relay it back to Earth. So essentially, when you activate the beacon, it waits 52 seconds and then it sends its very first burst. So that gives the beacon a little bit of time to download your GPS, which is usually plenty of time to download your GPS. And in that first burst, it'll include your GPS if it's already downloaded. And that burst typically will be back down to Earth and on someone's desk in as little as 3 minutes, as long as you have GPS. There is essentially 3 satellite systems up there now that are monitoring these beacons. There's a low Earth orbiting satellite, which there's one going overhead every 45 minutes. There's a geostationary satellite that pretty much covers pole to pole the entire world. And those are rotating around the world with us. And now there's a mid-Earth orbiting satellite. So there's 3 different redundant satellites all monitoring these systems. So typically in less than 3 minutes, search and rescue will know who you are because of your registration, where you are because of the beacon will provide your GPS coordinates. If GPS is for some reason not available to download, the satellites will triangulate your position and provide them with pretty much about a 1 mile search radius. And they'll know that you need help because it is a 406 megahertz beacon. And by law, search and rescue has to come and turn off this beacon, essentially rescuing you. So now your beacon activation is with NOAA. NOAA will look at your position and say, you're in San Diego, and they will pass, and you're on the water. They will pass your rescue off to the closest Coast Guard station to your rescue, so they can actually do the facilitation of that rescue. If you happen to be inland, more than likely that NOAA will then pass your rescue to the Air Force Coordination Center, who will then tie in with their search and rescue network, whether it be a park ranger, police, to send someone out to your exact location.
So I think that's a great point. Is people not just putting these on the water. If you're going on a hiking trip,
exactly,
having this and like I said, this thing weighs nothing. It's not going to be interfering. It's not a big extra piece of gear to carry with you at all. There's a couple of questions here. Michael Guerrero said, "Should I get one of those even if I fish local lakes?" I think if you're in any place that you could run into trouble where you might need to get assistance, it's a good idea to have. Even on a local lake, you can be hard to find. And this is going to let somebody know you're in trouble, right?
Exactly. Telling them who you are, where you are, and you need help. The nice thing with these beacons is you just don't know when emergency is going to happen. We have a lot of survivors that nothing was wrong. They were still in cell phone coverage range, but they slipped and fell on a rock and someone broke an ankle, and it was a 2-mile hike out with someone that now has a broken ankle. And so at that point, are you trying to haul someone 2 miles out of the woods to the nearest road? Not the easiest thing in the world, could cause more damage. And even with being able to call 911, giving them your exact location on a cell phone, when you're in the backcountry on a lake, or even if you're out in the ocean, if you're a couple miles out on the inlet, getting them exactly to you is not the easiest solution. And that's what these beacons do, because not only do they have the signal that will alert search and rescue of your exact location, but when search and rescue gets within roughly around, if it's by helicopter within around 10 miles, they'll pick up on the 121 homing signal, and that brings them right to you.
Oh, is that right? This seems like it'd be a great thing for like mountain bikers as well. I mean, those guys run into trouble all the time in back trails and.
Yeah, and not even just mountain bikers. We've got a lot of the adventure motorcyclists. I think I saw Charlie Bond jump on here. One of our great sales reps in the Pacific Northwest. He's an avid adventure motorcyclist, and he takes his with him everywhere. I mean, you're out in the middle where you don't have great cell phone coverage, and something happens. That's when you need it. So.
Jason Potts has a question here. Does the device require a subscription for service?
Yeah.
I mean, you see that with the Spot devices, right?
Yep.
And there's some other ones that require a subscription. Does this?
It does not. It does not. So once you buy the beacon, there's no required subscription service. We have an optional one where if you want to just confirm the beacon's working, it's called 406 test or 406link.com. But it's completely optional. We're not in the business of trying to get subscribers. We're in the business of saving lives. So since we use a commercial or a government satellite, there's no subscription fee required. And if you think about from a taxpayer standpoint too, one of the benefits from taxpayers is it's not a search and rescue mission when someone has one of these beacons, because we've taken the search out of search and rescue, and now instead of sending 5 boats out and 3 helicopters searching a huge grid pattern, they only have to send one asset out to that exact location, back and forth. So when you look at how much money Coast Guard spends annually, it's $7 billion on just search and rescue. With an EPIRB or a PLB, these rescues, they cost a fraction of when they've got to actually do a blind search with search patterns and search grids. So no subscriptions required. You can literally buy the beacon. They start about $250, and you're good for the battery life will last in there typically 5 to 6 years. So that's it.
Okay, yeah. On the battery, Weiss has a question. Is it rechargeable or battery operated?
So it's not a rechargeable battery. Inside, it has a dedicated lithium battery. And so that lithium battery has a shelf life on it, and it's typically some beacons have 5 years. We have some EPIRBs that have them up to we've got an EPIRB for the boat that has a 10-year dedicated lithium battery. So it's kind of a set it and forget it product. The most important thing is just keeping your registration updated. And in 5-6 years, we have I think we have over 300 battery replacement service centers that we've trained around the world. You can go to our website, find the closest one to you, send it off to them, and they can replace the battery for you.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're not buying a new unit. You can get the battery replaced.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not a user replaceable battery though.
No, it's not. With the PLBs, we don't have user replaceable batteries. And the product has one purpose in life, and that's if you need it, in an emergency, it's going to work. So we really don't want just anyone opening this up, changing a battery out. We want to make sure that everyone that does that knows that they've got to lubricate the gaskets, have the lubricated O-rings, make sure it's waterproof, and make sure it's working exactly the way we manufactured it here.
Michael Guerrero again, is it shock proof? How bad of a beating can these things take?
Yeah, these things can take a beating. I mean, if you go to a local, a West Marine, a Bass Pro, an REI, any of your local channelers that have one of the demos, the second you get this in your hand, I mean, you can basically almost pound a nail into the wall with these. They're shock proof. When we develop them, they have to go through roughly about a year worth of testing through independent labs and then the satellite networks. And there is a gamut of tests that we have to run: shock, vibration, temperature cycling. So we have to heat these beacons up to, I think it's 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and then drop them and then make sure they work. And then that same beacon, after we've done that, we have to freeze it so that the plastic's now getting really hard, and then drop it, make sure it works. So it takes an immense amount of time to go through the R&D on a product like this. And it's very expensive to go and do all that independent testing. So yeah, we make sure that, we don't necessarily know the application that every single person's going to have this in, but we know it's going to take a beating. I just did a ride along with the Florida Fish and Wildlife 2 weeks ago, and that every one of their officers is outfitted with one of these rescue links. And I mean, those guys beat these products up. And so it was kind of fun to see the different ones, and some of them are all scratched up and banged up, but they're all in perfect working order. They might just not look as pretty.
Yeah, Justin has a comment here. I've seen EPIRBs on plaques at ACR's headquarters that have survived lightning strikes and fires and still functioned.
Yeah, so Justin's a good friend, local guy here. Yeah, we've had some boats that have actually been hit by lightning. The boats have gone up in flames. I wish Justin should have shot me an email. Let me know he was going to ask that question. I would have brought that exact beacon in with me. But no, our beacons have to go through an extensive flame testing. And we've had beacons that are completely melted, but you can still actually do a self-test and they've worked. And we've actually had beacons like that used in emergency that have gotten people rescued, and they're just completely destroyed. But we put a lot of quality into our products. We're never going to be the cheapest product out there, nor do we want to be. We manufacture these here in the United States. It's the manufacturing. Yeah, manufacturing it's right down the hall from me, so I could walk in there and check on everything. We put a lot of money into the quality system.
Well, you know what? And whenever anybody asks me, and we talk about the same thing with VHF radios and many pieces of equipment, and they're like, well, what's the cheapest one I can get? Or it's like, oh, how much is your life worth? Yeah, this radio's $200, but I know this radio's got more power. I'm going to be able to reach farther, and I know it's going to float, and I know it's going to work when I need it to, and that's the key.
Yep. And we always tell people, VHF radios are great, especially kayakers. Have a nice quality handheld VHF radio. Keep your cell phones in those waterproof cases. Hopefully you can use them. With a PLB, it's essentially your last resort. And that's a great way to think about these beacons. You hope you never have to use one. It's not the easiest sale in the world. No one ever buys one of these beacons wanting to use one. But when all else fails, that's your lifeline. And at that point, you would pay an infinite amount for the product. So
exactly. It's one of those things. Like I said, you're only going to ever need it when you don't have it.
Yeah.
And so having it up there is just that little bit of insurance. And I say the same thing with PFDs. It's like, don't wear it for yourself, wear it for your family. They're the ones who are going to be worried about you, not know where you are if you run into trouble. Mm-hmm. So Weiss is saying the battery replacement is free. I'm assuming it's not free to replace the battery. Is there what is the charge if somebody's going to have one of these serviced?
Yeah. So when you think about a battery replacement, it's not like your standard product. It's not like you can just go to CVS down the street and buy a couple lithium batteries and pop them in. The battery packs itself, we manufacture here. Most of them have a little smart chip circuit board inside. So you really can't counterfeit these things. They've got to work for minimum hours. And we need to know how much testing people are doing. That way we can turn it off if people are abusing it. A battery replacement is kind of more like a tune-up for your car, if you will. Because you're replacing the gasket, you're replacing all the hardware and the O-rings, you're doing satellite testing. Yeah, so with a PLB, you'll see them range about $150. And our battery replacement network is free to charge what they want, but you'll typically see it in that range.
Okay, well, that's not bad. Versus buying a new unit. Dave Fowler, is this similar to what search and rescue use?
It is. We've sold thousands of units into the U.S. Coast Guard. In the UK, they've got a volunteer organization called the RNLI. They use our beacons. Florida Fish and Wildlife, I just referenced. They keep all of their officers carry a rescue link. We've been doing this for 60 years. We've sold PLBs into military branches that we can't really talk too much about, but we can say that there's been a lot of them in the Middle East on all of our soldiers. So we keep everyone safe, and we want to make sure that when we design one of these products, that an organization that like the Coast Guard or Fish and Wildlife or the Army, that they're going to want to carry. If professionals can see the quality in our product and they want our product, then it's good enough for everyone else. And so we really design them for the professionals.
That's awesome. Jeremy has a comment. This and Shark Shield just might make my wife a little less terrified every time I fish in or near the red triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, safety devices are are a great gift. They're an easy one, generally speaking, to justify to the spouse.
Yeah.
If she likes you, that is. They tend to want you to come back.
And if they've got, if you look at one of these, what they are is peace of mind. They're peace of mind for everyone at home. So if you get one, I always tell people at boat shows that are talking to me about getting one of these, and when they bring up their wives, we'll talk about the peace of mind that the family gets. But I know personally, when my family has more peace of mind on the activities that I'm doing it safe, and I have the proper safety equipment, my wife lets me go out more often, because she knows I'm better prepared. So just saying, you might be able to get out fishing a little bit more.
And I want to bring up one more time the very generous offer you put out there, and I'll throw this up there one more time, to use the code Kayak15 at the website to get a 15% discount. This will expire, I think, in about a month, you said?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but if you're interested in this deal, get on it now. But a very generous discount to any of our followers on here. So use that code Kayak15 if you go over there and you are interested in one of their products. And there are a variety of them. Dave Fowler asks, how is this compared to the Spot device? Yeah.
So we get that question a lot. Spot device, cool little product. You get some tracking in there, some messaging. I think they've got a new two-way messaging one out. It's apples and oranges because they're essentially selling, those are annual subscription fees that you're required every year to have in order to use that device. They're not built or designed or have to go through the same testing and standards that a personal locator beacon or an EPIRB have to. They're using commercial satellites, and that's what essentially requires the subscription plan. They've got to keep those satellites operational. They got to keep their businesses operational, and that's their business model. Very similar to a cell phone model. With the SOS feature on a Spot product, or there's the Garmin InReach and some others out there. They're essentially using a third-party call center. It's called Geos, and so Geos is sort of acting, on your behalf to then alert search and rescue. Whereas with a personal locator beacon, because we're using the government satellites and hence the no subscription, it's going directly to search and rescue. So NOAA's the middle point to say it's on land, go to Air Force. It's on water, go to Coast Guard or Navy. So it's the message just gets your distress message gets to where it needs to go in a matter of minutes. If you're floating out in the ocean needing rescue, those minutes feel like hours. And so it's there's just no delay in that. And essentially, search and rescue have via your registration, your emergency contacts. And one of the things I kind of skipped over is, so once you activate one of these beacons, while they're actually trying to, fuel up a helicopter or find the closest boat to your location, someone at a different desk is essentially calling you, first of all, to make sure it's not a false alarm. That's been known to happen from time to time. But if they don't get a hold of you, obviously that's red flag number one. So then they'll start calling your two emergency contacts to figure out, all right, Jim's beacon just went off. Who was he with? What kind of kayak? What color is the kayak? What are we looking for? Does he have any health conditions? And so they're drilling your emergency contacts for any of that information that they might have. So obviously now your emergency contacts know, and now they're worried about it. But the nice thing is Coast Guard is, with all of our survivors have told us, is Coast Guard's constantly calling them back and giving them updates. Especially when people have been found, they're giving them updates and trying to calm them down and whatnot. So.
Okay. Yeah. Michael Guerrero has another question. Michael, you're always on here, always asking so many good questions. Worst case scenario, if I get thrown overboard on my yak and get knocked unconscious, will the beacon go off at a certain time underwater?
Right. The answer to that is no. Right. So with a personal locator beacon, you manually have to deploy the antenna and press the button. There's no I think what he's referring to is like a dead man switch.
Right.
we do make some AIS man overboard beacons that when you fall in the water, they'll automatically, and your life jacket deploys, it'll automatically turn the beacon on. EPIRBs will similarly, we make some brackets where these will, if your boat was to sink, they'll pop out of the bracket. But they have to be manually activated.
Okay. Weiss is saying, you have any stories about anyone using this product in different countries?
Absolutely. We've got some survivors in the UK, Australia. I tell you, probably behind the United States where we sell the most beacons into with survivor stories, New Zealand. I don't know what it is about New Zealand, but I mean, I probably get a story a week coming out of New Zealand.
They're adventurous people over there. I've been to New Zealand a few times. It's a rough coast. I mean, it's an amazing country and fantastic fishing, but that coast is pretty brutal. Yeah. So I could see that. Justin actually answered. He says, Weiss, visit the ACR website for survivor stories from all over the world. Yeah, guys, visit the website. There is so much great information over there. I was looking through it earlier today, and there's a lot of these survival stories and a lot of great information on the website. And yeah, Jeremy, it's not going to go off accidentally. I mean, you kind of have to work at it. To make this thing go off. Yeah,
to Jeremy's point, it has by law.
Here, I'm going to give you the whole screen so you can show this a little bit better and take his. There you go.
Yes. So the issue of accidentally activating one of these, by law, a personal locator beacon has to have a 2-step activation. So essentially deploying the antenna, you can see there's no buttons covered on this, but once you deploy the antenna, then you get the buttons to press the on button. So you physically have to do 2 different motions to activate it. So it is designed to prevent false activations. However, in an emergency, we do make it so that you can flip it up, do it all with one hand. Because obviously you might be holding onto a kayak and you might need that extra, be able to do that whole process in one hand. So that's one of the design features we always try to push with the engineering team, especially the mechanical guys. You got to be able to do it with one hand, make it easy. However, it can't be easily activated for a false activation. But false activations, like I said, are mostly handled with a phone call as long as you've registered your beacon. So it's really not that bad.
So I'm going to bring up this comment. Kerry Flowers, he is actually my friend in New Zealand. New Zealand's not that dangerous. We just ate a little mad and go out when we really shouldn't. Kerry Flowers is one of the best fishermen I've ever had the pleasure of fishing with. He's a machine and a great free diver as well. And I saw you just got a new boat, Kerry. Is that an invite to go back over there and throw some kayaks on there, I hope? Looks like it could haul some kayaks pretty easily. Andrew, is there a periodic test you can do to ensure it is functioning properly?
Yeah, so on all of our PLBs, whether it's the smallest one, we've got a little bit bigger one. This one's probably easier for you to see. We do have a test function. So essentially when you do a self-test, it runs through the circuitry of the board and it tells, it's just checking that it can see the GPS receiver and it's connected, that the 406 is testing, that the 125 is testing, and that you have sufficient battery. If you have our optional subscription service, 406 Link, if you go outside and do a self-test, just deploy the antenna, do that self-test. And when you do a self-test, whether you have the subscription or not, your beacon actually does send a satellite burst. The first 2 digits of the code that are sent to search and rescue are inverted. So search and rescue knows to ignore a self-test and only focus on the live activations. And so that's how we kind of take that self-test and push it to a cell phone. But yeah, we recommend everyone just do a self-test every month. Obviously not everyone is going out every month, but especially before you go on your trip, just do a quick self-test. It's usually just a green flash to start. And then about 2 seconds later, a second green, you're good to go. There's not too much you can really screw up with these beacons.
I know you said it before. What is the shelf life? I mean, just sitting here, how long until I would have to replace it if it's never been used?
Yeah. So when we manufacture them, like with a Rescue Link, it has a 5-year shelf life on the battery. Now, a lot of people will actually get the beacon, and there's more than 5 years on that battery, and that's because we add in an extra year. Because we're if we ship this to West Marine, Amazon, REI, Bass Pro, your local brick and mortar shop, it's got to have time to get there. And then, they have to have time to sell it. And we don't know exactly how long that balance is going to be. So we always make sure that there's a full year of battery life before it gets to the consumer.
Okay.
So that's how we market it, is for 5 years, even though typically the second we manufacture it, it has a 6-year shelf life on it.
And Gabriel, is it one-time use and then has to be reset by
It is a one-time use, and I say that jokingly because if you use this in an emergency, someone mentioned the plaques we have in the wall, and all the survivor stories online. We've actually got a program called Survivor Club, and so if you use this in an emergency, you just come to the website, go to Survivor Club, fill out the form telling us about your story, and essentially send us your used beacon back, and we'll send you a brand new one free of charge. And now you're kind of part of that ACR family. And we mount your beacon on a plaque. We bring it back to the retailer that you bought it from. That way, whoever that sales associate that might have helped you, convinced you to buy a beacon instead of a new fishing reel. That way they can kind of experience the fact that they had something to do with bringing you home as well. You get to see your kid's next birthday and next Christmas and all of that. So it's a nice way to kind of reward everyone and include everyone in the fact that someone's life was actually saved by a product like this. So yeah,
that's got to be pretty satisfying. That's to have that.
It really is. I mean, I've been here 15 years, and it's I get to talk to survivors all day long, and it's it's a good day when I get one of those phone conversations, and we actually have survivors all the time that will fly themselves down here. And get a tour of the facility and how we manufacture these things here, and just wanting to meet the people that built this product. We've had 3 already this year, so it's and that this place lights up. We've got 165 people here, and everyone just wants to get to meet this person and shake their hands, and they're really here just to meet everyone that had a hand in designing and manufacturing the product. So it's pretty cool place to work.
That's cool. Tanya is asking, remind us what we have to like and share in order. Well, we need you to like this broadcast and hopefully share this broadcast on your page. Again, the more shares we get, the more views we get, the more we can have great companies like this giving us our viewers deals and giving away some products. So like, comment, share my page. I want this page to get to 100,000 followers. We're at 92,000, I think, and I'd love to see that pushed up to the 100,000 mark. So please do that for us. That's always a big help. Michael, another question. If I lose the device, let's say if it falls off my kayak and floats away, can this be recovered? I guess if it's registered, somebody would have the registration number. And
yeah, so we've actually had that happen a few times where a couple different scenarios where people have lost them overboard and they've washed ashore. And people will look at the back label and figure out there's an 800 number for them to call for false alarms, and they'll report that they found the beacon missing. And beacons have been returned back because of the database that you register your beacons for. One funny story: we did have one gentleman had his complete ditch bag stolen off his boat. The thieves went back to the house, were just rummaging through it, and they actually activated one of these beacons, not knowing what it was. And so that gentleman was smart. He reported his beacon and all the stuff was stolen. So if anyone did steal it, you go back to the database and let no one know that someone stole your beacon. And the police actually showed up to that gentleman's house, and not only did he have the guy's ditch bed, he had a house full of just stolen gear. And so
that's as good as a survival story. That is awesome. I know we talked a little bit about the proper way to wear it. I showed the photo earlier, and I can bring that back up again of how you can see it, and I'll actually make that a little bit bigger there. So you can see it up on my shoulder on my PFD. It's not low. I know you said you had some PFDs with you. Maybe you can show how we should be wearing this if we have it on a PFD and the reasoning we need to have it in a certain position. And I'm going to give you the whole screen again there so you can show it a little bit better.
Yeah, so this is just one of our inflatable jackets. I think it's this is a spin lock deck vest. So I mounted 2 of them on here for you. This is our Ocean Signal, the smallest one, which fits perfectly around the oral inflation tube, and you can literally, if you've got an inflatable, it literally fits perfectly inside, so it's out of the elements and whatnot. Our Rescue Link will fit inside most of the inflatables as well. It's just a little bit bigger. But kind of where the picture you showed, Jim, it's a perfect place for one of these beacons. Because when you're wearing one of these jackets and it's inflated, and really any beacon, even if we're talking a spot product or anything like that, they've got to be kept out of the water. Okay. So let's see, with these beacons, you got to deploy the antenna. It might be a little hard to see. And so you figure you're floating in one of these jackets. You want to make sure that beacon is out of the water and kind of has a clear view to the sky. We designed the beacon so that they float, but it's really only, the floating purpose is only so if you drop it in the water, you can retrieve it.
Right.
You don't want to see your hope, if you're in an emergency situation and you drop it in the water, you don't want to see your hopes and dreams floating to the bottom of the ocean. You need to be able to grab that beacon and activate it. So you want to keep it mounted high on the bladder of the life jacket. You might be floating there for a little while. So keep in a place that's going to be comfortable. A lot of our survivors will tell us that they didn't want to have it mounted. They just wanted to hold on to it for their dear life, and they wanted to keep it in their hand. So that's fine. Is if you're going to keep it in your hand, again, just you don't want to cover the GPS. So you don't want to hold it quite like that. You just want to hold it from the bottom and let the antenna face the sky. Is that
GPS because you are drifting? Is that GPS constantly updating? It's sending out an updated GPS signal?
Yeah. So once it downloads your GPS coordinates, the GPS will go to sleep to help conserve battery. That way, because they're required to work for 24 hours minimum. But depending on where you are in the world, I mean, if you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, you're going to want to, you hope it works for longer than that. But it'll turn off for a period of about 5 minutes, and then the GPS will turn back on, reacquire your GPS, and then keep sending that out. So it will periodically fire back up and continuously update your GPS. So if you're drifting, Coast Guard's getting your coordinates every time a burst comes down. And I've been to the Miami district, Coast Guard district, where they've got 25 TVs up on a wall, and you can see every beacon that's activated, and they can see that signal coming in and updated GPS. So that way they can then coordinate that and send that off to that helicopter or to that small boat crew that's en route and say, here's the updated GPS coordinates. And like I said, they've got the 121 homing signal, which all of those search and rescue outfits have. And when they're within 10 miles of you, they're typically picking up on that.
Now, you have this is the Rescue Link that I've got here. Well, I guess I should bring myself back up on the screen here. I've got it in my hand, like you said. People can see that the size of this. They're nice and small. You do have a variety. There are several different units that you guys have.
Right.
Why would I choose one versus another?
So, just as I pull back up the bladder here, I've got 2 of them mounted here. And these are really probably the 2 best-selling ones, in the world right now, the Ocean Signal Rescue Me and then the ACR Rescue Link. The main difference between these 2 beacons is the Rescue Link Plus will float. It has inherent buoyancy into the case. And the Rescue Me is, while it's the smallest one in the world, it's non-buoyant. So you can see I've got it mounted here, but I've also got it tethered to the life jacket. So if you have a really small life jacket and you just want the absolute smallest beacon, it might be a non-floating beacon. So just be cognizant of that fact and tether it to your life jacket. So if you did drop it, it's still tethered to you. So that way you don't have to worry about it losing it. As long as it's tethered to the life jacket or to yourself, really no issue with dropping it. It doesn't really have to float at that point. But a lot of people just want the peace of mind knowing that their beacon will float. And so far and away, we make more Rescue Link Plus beacons than any other. But some people want a little bit more PLB, a little bit more battery power, and a little bit more output power. So we do have, this is our Aqualink View PLB. You can see it is, a fair bit bigger. And that's mostly because it's got an additional battery inside. And so this will actually work closer to 36 to 40 hours versus 24 hours. And it transmits about 6.5 watts of power versus 5 watts. Okay. So it's just a little bigger beacon, a little more juice to it, and a little more battery life. So it's all kind of personal preference. If you're going pretty far off, this is kind of, I don't know if your audience, this is what we call an EPIRB. This is for your boat. Right. And these are required to work for 48 hours continuously once you activate it. So this is the Aqualink's kind of that middle point between a PLB and your standard PLB.
Okay, so I would think anybody in kayak, the Rescue Link's really going to be perfect because you're not going to be out that great distance. Maybe somebody who wants a personal locator device for their small boat, who maybe is going out, to the islands. Maybe they're going out to the out to the 9 Mile bank and farther. Then maybe it's a much bigger search area, and maybe you need that longer battery life. So and also if you're on a boat, it's a little more convenient to carry something bulkier.
Exactly. And I think especially with the kayak market, the most important thing I said right in the first minute, you got to wear it, right? So if you think you want the one with more power versus the smaller one, I say go actually look and feel at a retail store near you. And, more power is great, but if you're not going to wear it, then it's not going to do you much good. So, everyone's different. Everyone's got to make that decision on their own.
I gotcha. Yeah. Dave Fowler says, would local fire department be aware of this signal?
We have had some people rescued by fire departments, more so, in the country, in the middle of the country where, they would be the first responders.
So it's more a matter of somebody getting the signal and relaying the information to them. If you're inland, essentially the signal isn't going to the Coast Guard, it's going to the Air Force Coordination Center. So based upon where your GPS coordinates are with the beacon, they're going to figure out who is the closest first responder, whether it's a park ranger, a firefighter, a police. We've had state police be first responders to beacon activations. And, a lot of times, state police and people like that, it's probably the first beacon rescue that they've gone off of. And they're just getting the coordinates from the AFRCC. So, we've seen just about every kind of first responder, be on site. Right, and that would answer Michael's other thing. If I go off road in the desert, what rescue service would come out? I guess it's all depends on the location and who they're going to relay that information to.
Yeah, most of the survivors inland in desert situations or like that, it's typically Fish and Wildlife, park rangers, or volunteer local search and rescue.
That's great. What size vessel are you saying? Okay, now it's maybe time that you jump up to an actual EPIRB. It's. I like to say it's more of what you do on the vessel than the vessel size. You could have a small 26-foot center console and you're going 40 miles offshore. Well, you're really putting that boat to the limits there, and that's when I'm going to say, hey, you know what?
you're going that far offshore, you don't know how long it's going to take someone to actually get to you. Search and rescue might know you need help within minutes, but to actually get someone back out to you, you might be outside of a helicopter range or something like that. So that's what I'm going to say, step up. An EPIRB is not that much more than a personal locator beacon. They're designed to float in the water. They've got a lanyard that you literally just attach to you, and you just let the beacon do its thing, floating in the water. Really every boat should have an EPIRB, and everyone that goes on that boat should know where the EPIRB is and how to use it in emergency, in case something happens to the captain. We always say an EPIRB for the boat and a PLB for the person.
Okay.
Obviously sometimes price is an issue, and that's where we see a lot of people wanting to trade down from actually getting an EPIRB for their boat to a personal locator beacon. If you're new to beacons, if you're new to, you're not wanting to spend that much, an EPIRB will typically start for around $450 to $500. If you can't afford that just yet, $250, $275 for a PLB, a small price to pay.
Yeah, and I think somebody earlier brought up a point. When you look at the pricing on these things, and you say it's a 5-year battery life, take that price and divide it by the 5 years.
Yeah,
and how much you're paying per year for that little bit of safety. Or I shouldn't even say a little bit of safety, for a lot of safety. I don't think you break that down by 5 years. That's not really much to ask. Jason saying, what are the chances of the PLB accidentally going off? We did discuss this earlier. They are required to have a two-step operation to set them off. So it looks like it's pretty difficult. We were saying, you have to deploy the antenna to get to the buttons to turn it on.
Yep. It has to be a deliberate action, really.
Right. And it's not difficult. I just flipped this one open here. It's not difficult to operate it. So on my shoulder, I could easily deploy this. Mm-hmm. And I think we, back to that point of getting it in the proper position. So I'm not having to take, particularly, I think if you're using the one that doesn't float, you want to have it in a position where you don't actually have to take it off. This one being a floater, do any of them have any kind of a strobe or anything like that if you were to drop them at night? Or
great point. All of our PLBs have a strobe light inside.
Oh, they do?
Okay. It's not required. We just think that it's just a smart feature to have in any kind of a personal locator beacon, or any beacon that's going to save your life. Because chances are, one of the things we've always learned from our survivors is it's usually never one thing. And it's when it hits the fan, it's usually not in the best of conditions. And so chances are it's probably going to be low light at night, or by the time search and rescue actually gets to you, the sun could have set. And so while they have the homing signal to go off of, nothing really beats having that actual visual distress of a strobe light going off. So,
okay. Yeah. And Carrie, again, how much value do you put on your life? These things are so cheap when you look at it like that. And, when you look at it, breaking it down by, per year, that's nothing. And, again, we always talk about, how much is your life worth? You don't want to spend $250. I personally think my life's worth more than $250.
Yeah. And that is where you see a lot of the people saying, oh, well, I like the spot product. It's only $99 or $150. But then you got to get home and pay another $100 for a subscription. So you're already at the price of a PLB. And now every year you want to use it. If you start adding, it's another $100 every year for all the bells and whistles, $250 for 5 years. And, it's for the value, it's a great value. And like I said, you can't put that money on the peace of mind that it provides your family members back at home.
Yeah, for sure. Tom Riley saying, how does it compare to GPS VHF radio? And again, I think that's something we kind of touched on earlier. That a VHF radio is an awesome tool. You can get help from a boat that's nearby you.
Yep.
This is that last step where you need to get help. You really are in dire straits and you can't get a hold of anybody, anything like that. Is that a good way to think of it?
It is. And the other thing to consider with that, and one of the reasons we say it's a product of last resort is, with a VHF radio or your cell phone, they all kind of fall into the category where you can use them regularly. And so chances are, Murphy's Law will tell you when you actually need to use these products in an emergency, if you've used all the battery talking to other people on that VHF radio of where the hot fishing spot was, and you've drained that battery down, we still want you to use it until it dies. But that's why we say PLBs are strictly last resort. And if you can get your GPS coordinates out to that, to search and rescue, and you don't need to use the PLB, fantastic. But if that battery should die, we want to make sure that you have some sort of backup. And with beacons, like I said, they've got 406 megahertz. They can download your GPS. They have the homing signal. You can't test these things to the point where the battery's going to die. So there's 3 different satellite networks. So it's just this huge network of built-in redundancy. And that's what you're buying. You're buying this built-in redundancy, and from the search and rescue network to the satellites to the beacon itself.
Gotcha. Jason Morris says, have you discussed different ways to attach to your person? Yeah, we kind of did. I don't know if we did mention that, like, the Rescue Link here does come with a Velcro strap, and that's what allowed me to attach it to the shoulder of my PFD. I don't know if there's other ones have a different attachment points, but this was pretty effective for mine.
Yeah, we have like on our small Rescue Link, we've got a little clip that with a kind of like a rubber O-ring that can go around your oil inflation tube, so it doesn't hurt that. With the bigger Aqua Link, we have a belt clip that goes with it. So there are different beacons have different attachment points, and especially as you see these next generation ones come out, the wearability is obviously being addressed.
Okay, and again, back to the point that to be functional, I mean, you can wear it wherever, but when it's functioning, it does need to be above the water.
Exactly.
So that antenna needs to be above the water, and the GPS you want to make sure is not covered, so it is getting the proper signal out. I want to bring this up one more time because it was so generous of you guys. If you guys use the code Kayak15 at the website right there, you will get a 15% discount on any of the products over there. Are there other products over there? And I think there are. When I was looking around, that would be appropriate for kayak fishermen. I know I saw some whistles and ditch bags or...
Yeah, we've got, we do ditch bags. I'm a huge fan of ditch bags because, obviously you've got other safety equipment that's not a PLB. You've got first aid kits, and if you're on a boat, you've got your flares, and, in an emergency, the last thing you want to do is, where are my flares at? You want to keep it all close together. So that's why I'm a huge fan of a ditch bag, keeping your beacon in there, your flares, first aid kit. We've got a great blog on our site written by Charlie Bond, who's I think one of the listeners, and he really just nails every single thing you should have in that ditch bag. Obviously we do make strobe lights, so just obviously anytime at night, this will increase your visibility by a few miles. We do have an electronic flare. It's not Coast Guard approved, but it's
that's bright.
much brighter than any other strobe lights really out there. So strobe lights, signal mirrors, as simple as that sounds. Some people will use CDs, but a signal mirror with a holographic sight in the middle. If you need to get rescued during the day, these things are 10 times brighter than pyrotechnics. I mean, but you got to spend the time to actually learn how to use it and learn how to sight them in. But they're a fantastic tool, and for $15, it's a real cheap piece of safety gear.
Yeah, and again, everybody knows I'm the safety guy. I'm the PFD Nazi. I get on everybody who doesn't wear a PFD, and You know, it's just common sense stuff.
Yeah.
Luke is saying, what site is the blog on? Is that actually on your site?
Yeah, it's on ACR-Artex.com. I think you just click on news, and we've got a journal entry in there separate from the press releases. So a lot of good tips in there.
That's awesome. Mikele, can you believe it? It's been an hour.
Wow, flew by.
I told you, man, these things fly, especially with all the great questions and everything. Again, don't forget, if you are interested in getting one of these things and getting a discount, use the Kayak 15 discount at their online store over there. Please, share these things with your friends. Anybody who you think might be interested, any of your family members who you think might be able to give you a little Christmas gift coming up here or anything like that, because these are great things to. I get the question. People all ping me all the time. What's a good gift to get my husband? He likes kayak fishing. So these things are always awesome. Mikele, can't thank you enough for joining me here today and for being a part of this and for the great support and everything that you're going to be doing here for our followers. I think this was a really fun show and super informative. Yeah. I can't thank you enough for joining us.
No, I appreciate the time, and just stay safe out there. All right, guys?
Thanks, man. Okay, I'm going to drop you down and finalize this thing. And it didn't drop you down. There we go. So, again, please share if you are going to be watching this thing as a replay, or if you are watching this replay, please type in replay in the comments below. I will be waiting a little while before I select our winner. We are giving one of these away. If I didn't mention that already, I think I did. But yeah, we will be giving one of these away to one of our followers here today. I appreciate you all watching. I don't have a show scheduled for next week because I'm going to be on vacation with my wife. But we will have a show the following week. So I appreciate everybody watching as always, and always your great support. If you are going out on the water, please always wear your PFD and hold your paddle right side up. Take care. Well, I hope you see what a great safety tool these personal locator beacons are from ACR. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure you've subscribed to Kayak Fishing Tales. And as always wear your PFD and keep your paddle right side up. Take care.